up, sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. It's so good to be back with all of you guys here again on the Snake Sports Talk Show with your one and only host. And, of course, Chase. We're giving him positive thoughts because our co-host as well, going through his process. We wish him the absolute best of luck. He will be back, guys, because trust me, the week is about to start next week. And the NFL season is just going to be knocking your socks off. So wherever and however you may be watching, thanks for making us part of your day as we are live on all social media platforms for you to like, subscribe, follow, and hit the bell button, guys. We got a lot to unpack here as the NFL season's right up around the corner. I'm just super stoked and excited for this one because there's so much to talk about that, I mean, I've been busy all in the last whole week. And so kind of giving people an idea what's happening. We know that the 53-man roster is going to be shaped up. And you know that a lot of these players, they're going to be coming in and in the cuts. So it's going to be interesting. But I do want to start with this because for whatever reason, this ended up getting blown up. But it was basically talking about the Cleveland Browns with their quarterback situation. They are going to roll with Joe Flacco as their number one. I'm not blaming any of them, okay? I'm not blaming the Browns, and I'm certainly not blaming the whole entire situation. I get why. And what the Cleveland Browns are trying to tell you is, and that this is what they've been doing for the last few years, they cannot develop quarterback well. Okay, that's been part of the problem. This is why they're rolling with the four, because they know you've got a veteran in Joe Flacco. You're probably not going to end up rolling with Kenny Pickett, and then there's Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So over the weekend, Dillon Gabriel ended up getting a start, and to me, I've been trying to figure out what people are talking about when they call it a winning quarterback. I don't understand what that means when it comes to someone like Dillon Gabriel. Because, I mean, I watched him in college from UCF and in Oklahoma and multiple places. And even in his last year in Oregon. And to me, just because that you're winning in college does not mean that that's often going to translate into the NFL. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows how that works. Because if you look at a lot of quarterbacks who have won in college, I mean, the only exception up to the rule would probably be guys like Joe Burrow and company because they played in big programs like LSU. But if you take, for instance, Mac Jones is a winner. Well, why isn't Mac Jones getting a starting job? And we all know Alabama, and what Nick Saban tends to do is he tends to get a lot out of his starters. That has always been the deal. But Dillon Gabriel, he's basically won in a lot of places. UCF, Oklahoma, and then in Oregon, where he wins the Big Ten, but then gets completely crushed and annihilated by Ohio State. So this is why this whole narrative about winning quarterback, we got to slow down here. And so he ended up making a comment which was not particularly towards Shedeur Sanders, and I think they made that perfectly clear, is they're talking about guys like us in the entertainment business, okay? I'm all about unbiased, balanced takes on my entertainment because I'm not going to lie to my fans. I'm not going to lie to my listeners, okay? I'm going to be honest, blunt, and as real as possible. Okay, that's just what I do. But what he was making a comment of is that there are guys that are entertainers that try to break down film, that try to basically break down a lot of these quarterbacks like we all do. I mean, I listen to social media platforms almost all the time. I even listen to a lot of my really good hosts who are out there in the radio shows. And we do this every day. So that's what he's meaning. He's not taking a dig at Shedeur Sanders. And this is why people often have to pump the brakes on this. Because Shedeur, you know damn well, he's building up the blocks to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And if that wasn't the case, I would have asked other teams to inquire to Cleveland about trading for him, because there may be teams that don't have their starting quarterback. I mean, look at the Jets. I don't know what Justin Fields is going to look like. I mean, maybe depending on what happens with Pittsburgh, because Aaron Rodgers, we know people are looking for him to be this savant. Okay. And I really don't see it at that age. And then there's a couple of other teams, but it's not a shot at Shedeur Sanders. It's more of just taking shots at guys like us. And look, I'm as honest and real as possible. I ain't never taking shots on players because I want the best out of these players. I want these guys to succeed. I don't want them to ever fail. If I'm going to be critical and honest and blunt, I'm going to tell you, listen, they need to adjust on their game. And look, I'm not going to talk about their personal life because that's not fair. I live a personal life myself. I'm starting a family. And to me, what I would love for my kids is like, look, I will coach them because it's all about life teachings and values. That's the same way that I would with these players. You teach them about these values. You teach them about their game, and you break it down. You be honest about it. You're not there nitpicking or picking on them, because a lot of these quarterbacks, you don't know what their journey routes are going to be. So once Dillon Gabriel made that, I understood what he was saying. So pump the brakes a bit. It's not towards Shedeur Sanders, because people that try to make a narrative that thinking that, oh, Shedeur's his entertainer. No, stop. Okay. Shedeur understands and realizes the situation that he is in, but it also solidifies who the Cleveland Browns are. They don't develop quarterbacks well. That's why they're rolling with 4, because what you're telling me is you don't even know how this quarterback room is going to pan out, but I certainly do, and it's going to end with Shedeur Sanders potentially being the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, and you're going to find out and see for yourself, especially with that offensive line, the weapons, the run game, everything in between. You're going to realize that this is why he's going to end up manning that team. And he's been through so much adversity. I'm not saying Dillon Gabriel hasn't, but Dillon Gabriel's come from a different upbringing where he's won in a bunch of places in different programs in college, whereas Shedeur went from Jackson State and then ended up going to Colorado, where he had arguably the worst offensive line, so he's had to deal with adversity all throughout it. So that's why I think he would be more NFL prepared. Doesn't matter with what people ended up thinking about his interviews and about his IQ and all the rest of it. I'm just seeing with what's there on the field. That's it. And what's there up on film. So that's the way I break down quarterbacks. I will not break them down because of your characteristic. I'm not doing that. Many people will do this. They have all these hidden agendas. I'm not a fan. I don't even deal with that. So that's my take up on that. Now, I do want to shift over to New York because there is a quarterback situation, which I think is really unique. So Jackson Dart, which people were all like, yeah, he ain't going to work out well. Quarterback out of Ole Miss. He makes too many mistakes. And I kept telling a lot of people, this is why you want to be able to land in the most tremendous situations. You really do. And lots of quarterbacks often don't. And it happens because teams that often get the number 1 to top 5 picks are usually teams that have real bad ownerships, have some dysfunction in the front office. That's usually what happens. The Giants, I can tell you right now, like they have been trying to find their coaching situation for a long time. They finally have it with Brian Daboll. He's not the problem, okay? When they had to deal it with Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, and Joe Judge, this was a circus right after Tom Coughlin, and that for those 2 Super Bowls. But with Brian Daboll and what I kept telling a lot of people, Brian has won in multiple scenarios. He's won as a coaching staff in New England, winning Super Bowls, and he's also won a national championship. Go look it up. Him being a coordinator and being a part of the coaching staff is why he's prepared for these moments. So when Jackson Dart ended up getting taken by the New York Giants, said to a lot of people, the only way that this can work is if Brian Daboll is that quarterback whisperer who could figure out the mistakes that he had in college with Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And sure enough, what did you think about that preseason? It looks nice, doesn't it? More refined, more confident in the pocket. He's finding a lot of those windows for a lot of his weapons, and Jackson Dart looks really good. That's why I told people, like, it's no coincidence. And when you talk about winning quarterbacks, okay, winning quarterbacks often, you got to ask them, what happens when you lose? What is your feeling like? What's running through your head? Are you confident? Are you composed? Or are you frantic? Because oftentimes, quarterbacks tend to shell, and they do get frantic. Whereas for those who were built upon adversity, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jackson Dart, even in this moment, is they are NFL prepared because they went through this in college. I'm not asking these quarterbacks to go out and win a natty. I'm asking them, are you taking the snaps and are you going through the reads to be prepared for what the NFL is like? It's just like when you look at the difference between high school and college. Okay, high school, you'll have a lot of fun times, all right? You go to parties, you go into hangouts, you go into a lot of these pep rallies, you go to a lot of that stuff. All right, and that's okay. You're a kid. I remember when I was in high school, like, I blended in with everybody, and I've had my moments, but I was great with everybody, like, because I had nothing against it. But it was mostly because I really jumped in college. Okay, I was a kid going for my degree, got my degree, and sure enough, it's preparing me for real life situations, which I always harp upon to a lot of our younger generation coming into now, because I want them to be able to succeed in finances. I want them to be able to file their taxes. I want them to be able to be, dealing with, having a financial broker, somebody that can put you in the right financial stability, because you want to buy a house. You want to be able to manage your finances right. But this is why even in the NFL, when you look at a lot of these quarterbacks, these guys are not here to be built to fail. They're here to build to be successful. That's what I hope for a lot of these guys. And that's why if you put them in the ideal situations here, like Jackson Dart with Brian Daboll, he's done this with Josh Allen, because 2 years after, look at how refined Josh Allen was. You didn't even know a lick of Josh Allen out of Wyoming, because he's a stronger arm, didn't have a whole lot of like poised control when it came to the small stuff, and now he does. Now Josh Allen looks much, much better. Patrick Mahomes, he goes, to Texas Tech. He had Cliff Kingsbury as his head coach, and then all of a sudden he gets paired up with Andy Reid, and it's a match made in heaven. And everybody all knows it. He's got the wild stuff, but yet he's in control because Andy Reid is putting him in control and consistent. Like, that's what you hope for. I mean, we watched a lot of these quarterbacks over the years who have not been matched with that ideal situation. Some of them got lucky at a time that they're in right now. That's why I even say that about Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Because if Herbert didn't get the coach, people would be completely just dismantling him. But there's a chance he would be a winning quarterback. But the Giants, they're going to roll with Russell Wilson. They've got Jameis Winston. Now, they have been taking trade calls for Jameis, which to me personally, if you get some sort of compensation, that's great. But, for Jameis, he's a really good locker room guy. He's positive, he's funny, he's a little bit quirky, and he's energetic. I've watched him during the Super Bowl. I thought he was great. So it's good to have a locker room guy in there, because that's what keeps the positivity. But we all know Jackson Dart, you just have to wait and see what he is. But that's the whole point of it, because the Giants want to find their franchise quarterback like 65% of the league does, because it's not that easy. And people think about, how valued the quarterbacks are. They are important. But you also got to have the coach. You got to have the structure. You got to have the system. So Jackson Dart, I think, he's going to be great. So give it some time. At least he's got Russell Wilson, with where we know this is going to end up, where if Russ takes about $65 maybe 70% of these games from here, and then you're going to lead up to Jackson Dart. That is going to ensure Jackson Dart will work for the future. That is all. And again, I like this situation. I don't blame the Cleveland Browns for doing with what they're doing right now with the quarterbacks that they have. So because they know they can't develop quarterback right. So amongst a lot of different quarterback rooms, like, it is important to shape up your roster the best way possible because it's a long haul. Okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Lots of these teams, we know expectations are high, but this is why you got to get it right. So it's interesting, but I think the Giants would honestly be up in good hands. Good stuff today. You know, I like I said, I got my top 10 all put together. I will be showcasing it tomorrow because it's a stacked show tomorrow. We got great guests that are going to be coming up on here, so you don't want to miss that tomorrow. But yeah, we got a lot to unpack. I definitely am going to be back with Jake's prime predictions as well for the 2025 NFL season. I'm excited for that. So, but I will make this point that every week my top 10s will be interchangeable, and it'll be fun, entertaining, and people will get a chance to let me know what they think about this top 10. I mean, you'll see it tomorrow. So I'm excited for this one. All righty, folks. Well, like we said, making our mark to the 2025 NFL season, it's going to be a legendary one because there are so many storylines. But you know what? Many rookie careers are awaiting to make their mark into their first ever welcome to the NFL moment, whether touchdown, score, or such. And then there's also many other veterans who are making their marks in their new teams. But since 1950, Maker's Mark has been making their mark as arguably one of the most delicious Kentucky straight bourbons that you can get at any convenience store and also some liquor stores closest to you. Because Maker's Mark is all about making their marks for the moments that you may have, whether job promotion, whether new relationships or marriages, whatever moment it may be up and in life, enjoy yourself and give yourself a pat on the back with Maker's Mark. Aged perfectly in their aged caskets, mixed up deliciously. I usually would like to drink it on the rocks. That's just me personally. But some would like to mix it, maybe a little bit of an old-fashioned type. But whatever your mark is, leave your mark with Maker's Mark. Remember, 21 and over, enjoy responsibly. Make your mark with Maker's Mark.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
So I've been thinking about this as the season is almost upon us, guys. I'm excited for the 2025 NFL season, but I will say there is definitely going to be a lot of moves happening all up and into next week to where we start to shape up the 53-man roster. But a couple of trades that's been happening. We know that the Vikings ended up making some trades, so we'll get into the news portion here in a bit. But what really scares me the most, and I've been talking about this team an awful lot, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron is not going to end up starting for the last preseason game, and I can understand why, but for the last for these last couple of weeks, it's just been really odd because as of right now, the thing that really interests me is how Aaron Rodgers hasn't even taken the time to really establish and develop the relationship with his team in the offense, and which is about the same reason that things did not work well in the last year in Green Bay, and certainly why things did not work out well with his tenure with the New York Jets. So even though Aaron being productive last year did not translate to a winning season, it did not. And Pittsburgh, which I told a lot of Pittsburgh fans, because Pittsburgh to me is a proud organization that doesn't quite pivot off of defense to work up on offense, and they've got a lot to think about, which is why the year in which they start, you're playing against the New York Jets, and it's actually a 3-point margin game, which to me, I don't know. I'm going to be taking the underdog Jets in this game because you know the Jets are going to be hungry. You know that they're going to want to be fighting for payback. And at the same time, it's just that when I look at these defensive pieces, it's really good. It's really good. And they just landed a defensive tackle. But my point is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are going to have such a long season. And I don't even know how this is going to work out for them. Because at this point now, this is not going to end up as smooth as you think there is. And I've told a lot of people, and I've warned them, and my thoughts are exactly as I would have expected. Aaron not there developing the relationships to being there with the team and developing that offense is really, really questionable. It's absolutely questionable. I don't know how this is going to work with this offense. I mean, to see just, I get it. You know, I would not want to end up rushing someone like Aaron Rodgers, who we know with where he is at his age, to basically have that happen. But all I know is that it's going to come down to, in these games, the Steelers have to get to a hot start. They have to. Otherwise, they're going to be in deep crap. I don't even know how this is honestly going to end up working out, but I really do hope for the best for them. But like I said, do not be surprised, because I wasn't. And I can kind of already see this go downhill. And as I've said, I do not have Pittsburgh being my playoff team. So that's going to cause a lot of stirrups throughout this whole thing. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's go to the news.
And now, here we go. Hey, everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
All right, so some news around, and this actually just hit. So the Kansas City Chiefs were trying to find a new home for their one wide receiver, Sky Moore, and they have. So the Chiefs are trading away Sky Moore and the 27th, 7th round pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a 6th round pick in 2027. Sky Moore, 24 years old, is in the final year of his rookie deal and is due to a base salary of $1.5 million for this up-and-coming season until he's set to be a free agent. Had 43 receptions and 494 receiving yards and 1 touchdown in 36 career games. So we knew the Chiefs, like Sky Moore was not going to end up making this roster. I think it was just kind of unfortunate. But, Sky Moore, there was a bunch of issues that were happening up from there and wasn't quite looking sharp. So, unfortunately, couldn't work out with Kansas City. Kansas City, I think, to me, I don't know what to make of with the Chiefs. We know that they're going to be going through a lot of adversity after losing the Super Bowl. And then at the same time, the roster shakeups. Because, don't get me wrong, I love Josh Simmons. I really do. But hopefully he can turn into that tackle that he was up at Ohio State, where he was only giving up 1 sack, like barely any pressure. So if that becomes the case, then that will be a steal. But for the wide receiving core, because we know Hollywood Brown not being around, Rashee Rice is a question mark of if he'll basically start or if there's going to be that suspension that will happen. We've already talked about that. But then all the rest of the other weapons. Like, I don't know what to make of this. This is going to be really interesting of a situation, but Sky Moore, wishing the best of luck in San Francisco, but Kansas City, I knew Kansas City wasn't going to easily cut him. They wanted to get some sort of compensation up from there, and that was the end of it. I thought this was interesting here. So news coming out here in Denver, and where Devon Bailey, wide receiver, 27 years old, who caught 41 passes of 475 yards and 3 tutties in 13 games last season. It was really interesting. He was actually a very good pivotal piece when it came to situational plays. He is now on the move. He's headed to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for a 4th-round pick in next year's draft and a 7th-round pick in 2027. What a steal for the Denver Broncos. They got that was actually a very good compensation for the Denver Broncos, because to me, I thought Devon Bailey was going to honestly make this roster, but what this is telling you is that this was opening up where their rookie, Pat Bryant, they really like what he does. And, the wide receiving core, I was questionable about it when it came to, Cortland Sutton I like, Marvin Mims I do like, and then when you look at Pat Bryant, he's going to end up stepping into these roles, and not to mention, too, Evan Ingram, the tight end that they got in the offseason. So with Devon Bailey getting shipped out to New Orleans, so they're going to help out Chris Godwin or Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed and multiple others. New Orleans is getting a weapon, but to me, Denver, man, do they like to do business? And Sean Payton will definitely utilize a lot of those draft picks. So I think to me this was definitely a steal up from here. So Devon Bailey is getting shipped off, and they get 2 really good picks. Late rounders, but man, this is not bad. I really like the business and what Denver was doing here in this deal. So of course we'll be talking a little bit more about it, but the Indianapolis Colts, they are going with Daniel Jones as their starter, and there's already talks about Anthony Richardson's future. So it is going to be interesting up from here, but Anthony Richardson understands that it's all business. It's also a decision in which could be best for the team. But I just think this is just unfortunate. To me, I really thought that he had the potentiality to be something, but here's my problem is my thing with this is that, Anthony Richardson, I really, really wish he stayed one more year in college. Not kidding. I really wish he would have stayed one more year in college, because it would have refined his skill set. It could have had him prepared for the NFL. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. So he's already getting phone calls about potential trades. But I would just like him to go to an offensive side, because even though nothing against Shane Steichen, but it's but to me, I just don't see. I think this is kind of done. I think they're kind of over it. And this is kind of the end of the relationship with Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. But we'll touch upon that here after the news. But yeah, I just think this is unfortunate for the Colts. Colts are going to go with Daniel Jones, and not sure how this is going to work out. All right, that was the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the hot press.
So, touching upon the subject of Anthony Richardson and the Colts, I just feel bad for Indianapolis because this Andrew Luck curse since he retired is just really bad. And I don't know. I think I initially had said this, that unfortunately for the Colts, this has just not gone over well. When you look at this, the two quarterbacks, because I thought this was interesting. Daniel Jones in the 24 season, 2-8, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 63% completion percentage with a quarterback rating of 47.8 and 2 rushing touchdowns. And he was backing up Sam Darnold and company. And that was right after his tenure with the Giants. And this, they were just like, this is not working out. It's not working out. Anthony Richardson last year, before dealing with the injuries and such, was 6-5, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 48% completion, 47.4, and 6 rushing touchdowns. He's got the physicality to run and score with the football, but it's the simple stuff is what's hard. And I think a lot of people made this clear was when, the Colts, since Andrew Luck retired, they have not figured out quarterbacks since then. From Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers to Brian Hoyer, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. I just feel bad because they just have not been able to figure that out. And like I said, they're one of 60 of the 65% teams who whiff on franchise quarterbacks. And the problem with this is that they're not taking a risk. And what's hard about this is I understand with where the offensive line was part of it, but even Quentin Nelson, who ended up coming out and was speaking his mind into the whole entire situation with Indianapolis. So since Luck retired, here we go. I was glad that they were able to bring this up. They have gone through a multitude of quarterbacks. They've gone through 12 different quarterbacks since Andrew Luck retired in 2019. Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Jacob Eason, Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, and now Daniel Jones. I mean, this is a Colts team that if you look at it on paper from top to bottom, where they've got a really good running back in Jonathan Taylor, they've got a pretty decent offensive line with some pass rushers I do like, even with Latu, and their secondary, I mean, they're going to be focusing up another secondary. They just ended up adding Xavier Howard. So, this is kind of the one thing about the Colts is that they have, like most teams in the NFL, which have talent, wide receiving core, tight end that they got in Tyler Warren, and running backs, they're just missing the quarterback. What's hard about this is that Shane Steichen, and I love Shane Steichen. I mean, he's ultimately, like, as an offensive-minded genius, he definitely set up Justin Herbert for success and then ended up building even more to a Super Bowl appearance with Jalen Hurts. To thinking that Anthony Richardson would have been in good hands is difficult. I mean, this was hard. And Anthony Richardson, I'll be honest with you, should have stayed another year in college. And what's unfortunate about this whole thing is that I look at this And I hope, and if he is watching this or listening to this program, DJ Lagway in Florida, learn from Anthony Richardson and stay another year if you have to. Because here's the thing. People that come in with some type of inexperience before they even dive into what they're doing, oftentimes are always the ones that usually get tested heavier the most. And whether they fold or they succeed under pressure. Anthony Richardson could not complete the simple stuff. That's why his completion percentage was as down as it was. Sure, he's got the rocket arm. Like, here's the thing. I know a lot of people, and I don't usually like using this comparison a whole lot, only for reasons. But Cam Newton, when he came into the league, big, strong, athletic, super Cam, like everybody was loving it up in Auburn. And then goes into Carolina and changes up a franchise because even they were struggling with quarterbacks after Jake Dillon left. And then comes in, highly athletic, rushes in for rushing touchdowns. And then all of a sudden it was like multiple injuries. And that was it for Cam Newton. But the problem is that Cam, even though that there was parts of it he could complete the simple stuff, but it seems like he always felt like there was an overly reliance in running the football. Well, they couldn't develop their run game, at least as consistent, and it was hard. So he had to take matters into his own hands. But we all know all the history behind that. But we've even thought of the same thing when it came to Josh Allen. But Josh Allen, the difference between him and Cam is that he's got a stronger arm. He could sling that puppy. And the last thing you want is for him to take the bodily damage. And I mean, even when you looked at Big Ben, Big Ben was a very good, highly talented quarterback, but we know that like big in size, strong arm, and he was a fit for Pittsburgh. And then Josh Allen, similar body types, but they had to take a beating. So with Anthony Richardson, it was like the similar style, but he's got a stronger arm. But the problem is that when you don't simplify the little things, the minor stuff that could potentially become major if you don't address that. And it's already becoming a major issue because he lost the starting job. It's unfortunate. And again, I wish the best of luck for Anthony Richardson, but this is not as simple as people think it is. I mean, you're going to come in from college, and in fact, he quoted this where he said that it's easier in the NFL than it is in college. I would tend to disagree. Because here's what's easier about college. And I'm not going to use the term easy. I think we kind of throw that word out a lot. And here's what's simple about college. Okay. When you're a college quarterback and you're highly talented, you know what benefits you? NIL, transfer portal, and structures. That's what benefits you. I mean, go look at Cam Ward, because now he's in Tennessee as a number 1 overall pick. Cam Ward realized that when he was at Washington State and he wanted to declare for the draft, and you know where he was played at? Day 3. You were going to be a 4th to 7th round pick. And Cam's like, nah, screw that. I'll come back to college. So then he goes to Miami and then becomes a number 1 overall pick this season. You notice how that works? Because going into college, and even when he had Mario Cristobal as his head coach, Cam Ward was so electrifying, but the defense just couldn't show up. So it works for a lot of quarterbacks. That's why I always encourage, if you got to take another year in college, because there may be some things that you got to simplify. You got to clean up. You got to structurize. It just happens for a lot of people. It's not talking about you're taking a step back and you're kind of falling down from here. No, that just means I need to kind of pump the brakes, take a slight step back so that I can grow even further. No matter what your upbringing is in life, even if you're a quarterback or even if you're, an architect, because sometimes you can miss a few steps, whatever it may be. But it's not about trying to get it right to be perfect. It's about trying to get it right to master it. And then you're like the master architect. People will take it seriously. And people will respect you this way because that's all it takes. I always say this. I try to live and learn. Open up my mind, be optimistic. I even listen to some audio podcasts. You know, I've listened to a lot of them who have reshaped the way that I perspect life. Because, again, I mean, I'm about to start a family. My whole entire life is about to change. But it's changing for the sake of the future. That's the best part of it. That's the most exciting part. And even for quarterbacks, I encourage this the same similar way. So that's why I'm like with Anthony Richardson and even with DJ Lagway, because to me, it seems like they have a little of a similar skill set. Like DJ Lagway, he can run the football, he can throw the football, but this is where I'm just kind of like, DJ Lagway, I would love for him to be a top 10 pick. But in order to do that, it's not always just about what your talent is and your skill sets, but it's often about the experiences and the coaching you got. So that's why I say, take another year if you have to. We all know, taking a short break up from here, but this is the other thing too, is and this is a great partnership that we have as well here up and on at the show. Our great sponsors, of course, at Bucked Up is helping you to achieve your physical goals, your fitness plan, and whatever your fitness goals are, whether you're kind of coming up a little bit late, that's okay. No big deal. There's always time, even when you're coming into the cold season, because we know that we're kind of coming up and into the tail end, and eventually we're going to see snow here up and in Denver. But Bucked Up has you covered with 110% all-natural proven ingredients to make sure you meet your goals, whatever they may be, whether it's trying to slim down, whether it's trying to feel like the best fit self you've ever felt in your life, or maybe you're preparing for tests, whatever it may be. Whatever it is, Bucked Up has you covered with pre-workouts, protein powders, many different products, and they're all delicious. I've tried them before. I even have a bunch, my sample size of Bucked Up's pre-workouts, BCAAs, so much. Check it out for yourself and use promo code SNAKESPORTS1. That's SNAKESPORTS1. When you go online and at checkout for your exclusive discount of your purchases whenever you purchase on the website or even up and onto the app. Go online to buckedup.com and get bucked up. Whatever your goals may be with Bucked Up Natural Supplements.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing deal of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Great to have you all in here onto the show. I'm really excited for tomorrow night's show because it's going to be stacked and loaded, and we're getting to that busy season. And, I've loved my wife, and I've told her this before, is that these 6 months are going to be quite the challenging months, especially when football season is underway. So, and we got so much to unpack. My top 10 NFL teams going into the season tomorrow night. Going to be great. I can't wait for it. But here's what I will say. Couple segments to finish up the show is, so I was thinking about this. The Chicago Bears and what they're about to be, like what they're about to look like. Because many people, Chicago hasn't had this big of an upbringing in years. And I get it. Chicago has every right to be excited. But I do wonder, because Chicago, as of right now, they just paid their backup quarterback, Tyson Bagent, 2 years, $10 million. Well-deserved. The kid's good. And the only thing surrounding this is Caleb Williams. So Ben Johnson comes in, and he's already left his mark. And the thing about Ben Johnson is that even up in Detroit, with what he was doing there, establishing a run game, consistency up and on offense, and he came up with a lot of different creative plays. To me, in that whole loss against the Washington Commanders in the playoffs last year was just, I think he kind of got, I think he kind of got caught in the clouds. I think he was way over the top. He got way too cute on these plays. And that's where Washington really took advantage of it. So to look at the regular season, here's what I'm thinking. Because this is how it sets. Vikings, Lions, Cowboys, Raiders, Commanders, Saints, Ravens, Bengals, Giants, Vikings, Steelers, Eagles, Packers, Browns, Packers, Niners, and Lions. And so Chicago, what I'm thinking, because last year they were 5-12, I predict this team to be probably a solid 8-9 or a 9-8 team, depending on a game in which they could probably steal away. Now, the picks that they ended up getting, Colston Loveland, absolutely looks great. So does Luther Burden. And they ended up getting a bunch of offensive line help because the whole point of this is you got to protect Caleb and you got to establish a run game. Now that they've done that, and Ben Johnson, who's big about this kind of stuff, it's now on Caleb Williams, because at this point, I don't even know if Caleb, even after what he dealt with last year, where he held on to the ball for too long, kind of was leaning towards the spectacular because they asked him to be this savior. And Chicago, we understand they haven't quite had a talented quarterback ever in franchise history. Not one who has basically thrown for over 4,000 passing yards. That's why Caleb Williams is the only one that is capable with his skill set that can make that happen. But Caleb has to be able to trust and refine his skill set and not be in his head. Because the minute that happens, it's not a good look. But it's not going to hinder someone like Ben Johnson because you just hired him. And he's trying to implement his identity here in Chicago. So Chicago's never had a terrible defense. Okay, that has never been the problem. The problem has ultimately been on the consistency on offense. Everybody knows it. And it has not looked sharp. It has not looked consistent after all these years. And this is why they really have to start on they have to build up the consistency. I'm not asking the Chicago Bears to just take the entire NFC by storm. I'm not asking that. What I'm looking forward to, and hopefully we can figure that out, is I want them to be able to build consistency. Okay, get the consistency part down first. Then will be the time in which you'll be able to make a jump. I mean, most teams were able to do this. Most teams were able to figure this out last season. And the thing about that is that Chicago, and we know that the NFC North is going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. And especially when you're starting a season where you're facing against the Vikings, you're on the road to Detroit, back home against the Cowboys, and then on the road the 2 games against the Raiders and Commanders, which you might actually have a chance against the Raiders and potentially the Cowboys, depending on it. Then there's that morning game against the Saints. So however that this goes about the Bears, they just have to find the consistency first. That's all that I would look at. That's why a solid 8-9 or 9-8 team, I'm okay with that. If you don't make the playoffs, you don't make the playoffs. That should not be the be-all and end-all. And I know a lot of people, even in Chicago, are thinking that's the expectation, but I'm here to tell you, I want to see consistency first before you end up making the jump. So I think this is also one thing to point out. So the LA Rams projecting next year's quarterback market. So Dan Graziano ended up putting this out and had this article on ESPN talking about these projections, because as of right now, there are a few teams he's brought up, and it was the Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, Colts, Raiders, Rams, Saints, Giants, Jets, Pittsburgh, Seahawks, and Tampa. I think the teams we can eliminate here, though I think we kind of understand their situation, would be Tampa, Seattle, Carolina, and I would maybe say the ones I'm holding on to for now that I'm 50-50 on. So 3 teams to eliminate. I think Seattle has found their quarterback, and I also do think there are some packages that they put together with Jalen Milroe. And then Baker Mayfield, this is home in Tampa. He's competent, he's comfortable, and that's where we see it. And then, you look at what's happening with Carolina with Bryce Young. Looks a lot better. It's a lot more refined. So there are 3 teams I would not want to hit the panic button. But these are 50-50. And the only reason why that it's 50-50 for this is because the Jets, who knows if, actually the Giants. My bad. The Giants, I really do like with what they got in Jackson Dart. And I think this is going to work. They have a very good situation, and I think it will work out for them. But Bryce Young, I'm 50-50 on, because Carolina, we know has been trying to get Bryce Young to work, and I think he found his confidence. So there's that question mark. And I think they'll be okay in that. But, to me, and then the other thing is the Raiders. The Raiders, they've got Geno Smith. So, and we knew that from the minute they ended up signing him, that he is going to be right now the quarterback of the now. So we understand that the Raiders, because Pete Carroll's all about run game, efficiency, and consistency with that's what the Raiders needed, and that's what they want. So that's understandable up from there. But the uncertainty teams, Pittsburgh, Arizona, I would probably say the Rams, uncertain of the future. The Colts are also up and uncertain of the future. And then the Jets, uncertain of the future. And New Orleans, do I even need to explain the Saints? I don't even know. But here's the thing. Let's start with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray is signed through 2027 and has a team option in 28. And thing about this is that Kyler Murray, the Cardinals have been middle of the pack, and they haven't even won their division in quite a while. And what's hard about this is that Kyler Murray, the outcome is that they'll have a good enough season and they may snag a playoff spot and stay the course with Kyler at least until 26. So he could be in position for an extension, but it completely collapses. People in charge get fired. New regime comes in, and then they decide the best thing for the franchise quarterback is to move on and draft a quarterback in the 26th draft. It's hard. But Kyler Murray, we know, has the talent. He has the talent, but it's the focus. It's it's a connection. That's the one thing that people have been harping about. But I think MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think is capable. I think they built that relationship. Now, again, we've talked about the Colts before. The Saints, I think the Saints should honestly draft a quarterback. I don't think Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shugg, I don't even know if they really are the future. But the Rams are an interesting one. And the only reason of this is because we know that Stafford is signed through 26 and has been dealing with a back issue. So this is what's going to be interesting for the Rams. And this is where I kind of thought, okay, would the Rams be comfortable with trading for a quarterback, or would they just much rather draft? Because Stetson Bennett, look, let's be honest, he had a very good preseason. But would I trust Stetson Bennett to uphold on his shoulders the franchise? That's kind of hard to say. And you'll look at, I was talking about this. I think they probably should even go for either these two quarterbacks, Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, if it can't work out. If they go for Anthony Richardson, here's the deal. I think Sean McVay really can turn this thing around. But McVay and Jim Harbaugh both have something in common. They're quarterback whisperers. They can make it work. You watch Baker Mayfield when he lost the job in Carolina, comes to the Rams, gets consistency, and gets a contract with the Bucs. We've watched this before. And McVay just knows how to run an offense. That's why he's got such a good offensive line. And he's got a healthy run game. And he's got weapons. And his quarterbacks, well, they definitely produce. So I just think this is going to be an interesting season for them, for the Rams, because I even had them winning the division. But because of Stafford's health, now I'm kind of pulling back. You'll be kind of crazy to see what my top 10 will really look like at the end of the day. But it's a great look. I would definitely look up into this article. But yeah, 12 teams uncertain of their quarterback futures. So I don't know. It could be really interesting up from in here. But tomorrow night, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. It really, really will be. All righty, guys, we're going to wrap it up here up on the show. Tune in tomorrow night because it's a stacked show. We got 2 interviews amongst us stopping by on the show. Former defensive tackle Sean Smith, played for the Bengals, played for the Chiefs, multiple teams. We're going to be talking a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking about Kansas City. We're going to be talking about Cincinnati, and even with the Trey Hendrickson situation and so much more. And get a little bit of NBA talk here because we don't want to leave the NBA out of the topics. But NBA draft analyst Matt Babcock is going to be joining us here up and onto the show. We're talking Cooper Flagg, talking Ace Bailey, and more, and kind of how the NIL really could affect this with the future builds of the NBA and in college hoops. So really interested about this one. And finally, to top it off, my icing on the cake, my top 10 NFL teams going into the 2025 season, guys. You do not want to end up missing that, guys. Appreciate all of you guys for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow night on our stacked show on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone.